Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host Khalid, but today is the 13th of June 2024 and this is the crux of what we will be discussing during the course of the show. We'll begin, ladies and gentlemen, with China-Pakistan economic corridor that is a guarantee to Pakistan progress. Now that the second phase is about to begin and the successful visit of our Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and his entourage to China has proven that both Pakistan and China are equally committed to not only strengthening their bilateral relations but also taking this a step forward with the second phase of the CPEC. How important will CPEC be as far as not only but the bilateral relations is concerned but also Pakistan's own economic outlook? This will be discussed in our first segment. Our second story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns Narendra Modi's criminal cabinet that has been sworn in. Now, as far as the reports go, around 28%, in fact, a big chunk of his ministers are having some kind of a criminal background or are involved in criminal cases. Not the first time though. Even in 2021, there was a huge percentage that was involved in criminal activities. There is a certain trend if we see the ministers that are sworn in Modi's cabinet this time and the last time as well. They have criminal records, plus they are extremely rich and powerful. This is going to be our second segment. Then we are going to talk about Palestine war. Today is day 251. We all know about the ceasefire proposal that has recently been accepted by the United Nations Security Council with Russia abstaining. But the fact is that both the important parties concerned, that is Hamas and Israel, have yet to come on board. Now, what is being said by the US is that there are certain conditions that Hamas has put in, Palestine has put in, that seem unworkable. If this is the case, what is going to happen as far as such as peace proposals are concerned? But this said, even after the peace proposal was accepted by the UNSC, Israel continued to pound Rafah, and the evidence is in the increase in casualties. This is going to be our third segment. Then we are going to talk about 120 million people, ladies and gentlemen, that are living forcibly displaced by war and violence, as per a report by the United Nations. And of course, this is more or less also related to what we are just talking about as far as Palestine is concerned. But the war violence is just not relegated to Palestine. There are other, because of which there is a displacement of people. It is also in Sudan. It is also in other countries across the world. The global displaced population is now equivalent to that of Japan, as per the report. Finally, we are going to talk about two death anniversaries, ladies and gentlemen. The first is that of legendary maestro Mehdi Hasan Saab, whose 12th death anniversary is being observed today, and the fourth death anniversary, ladies and gentlemen, of leading film actress Sabihakhanum, that is also being observed today. This is the lineup for today. Let's begin with our first segment, and that, ladies and gentlemen, concerns China-Pakistan economic corridor and what we are going to see in the present and in the near future as well. We've been joined by Dr. Talat Shabbir. He's the Director, China-Pakistan Studies Center, ISSI, and we have the privilege of having him in the studios instead of having him online. Thank you very much, Dr. Talat Shabbir, to have joined us. Pakistan and China in this recent visit signed a lot of MOUs. Even in the last time the visits have happened in the last years and decades, there have been several MOUs signed. This time, under the CPEC, there are MOUs concerning procedures regarding third-party participation in CPEC, feasibility study of Dera Ismail Khan Job National Highway, because of course that is also part of the CPEC. There is an MOU for construction of tunnel at the Babusar, then the feasibility study on Karachi-Hyderabad motorway, Karakoram highway realignment, and other important MOUs. How important are these MOUs, or do you feel this is a continuation of the process that Pakistan and China have been moving along since decades?
Thank you very much for having me on your show. First of all, I also consider this visit by Prime Minister of Pakistan to China a success because at least you see a kind of revival of what we thought is very important, various projects on CPEC, and we see many high-level interactions taking place. Many concerned people have been talking to, like, business community, industry community in China, talking to our Prime Minister in China. So there are good news, like you see, we have a news that there are 23 agreements that they've taken. They have prioritized certain areas, like 13 priority areas. They have also focused. I think there's a little focused approach on CPEC. which is
in this phase.
In this phase, during this visit, it was seen. And prior to this visit, a visit by our foreign minister, Mr. Sagdar, was also very welcoming, because they also discussed many practical aspects of how to carry the CPEC forward. Now, when we look at this visit and CPEC, before this visit, I find that China is very, they are very aggressive, they are very dynamic, they are very vibrant on CPEC, because they think this is a pilot project of Belt and Road Initiative, and success of this project will actually reflect a success of Belt and Road Initiative, or their future plans with regards to Belt and Road Initiative. So they have CPEC on their minds, on their nerves probably. Now, what is happening is that we find that there is some kind of capacity issue with Pakistan, with us. There's some skill deficiency in Pakistan, and I think probably there's some willingness issue too. So I think with this visit, and since Mr. Shahbaz Sharif is very popular in Chinese businessman, Chinese industrialist, he's very popular. They consider him as a very dynamic person, a politician. So I think there's going to be good news in times to come. But I think it is very important that we should focus on, like, it's very good that they're focused on various areas. Now they're very important things. They have actually, within CPEC, they have said, okay, now we must focus on green corridor, we must focus on growth corridor, we must concentrate on open corridor. Then they have also decided a framework, 5E framework, that is also very important. Like they are focusing on energy, they are focusing on e-Pakistan, they are focusing on equity. So I think now they have a focused approach towards CPEC, and particularly when we talk of phase 2. Phase 2 has to be very, very specific, and it specifies specific to industries in Pakistan. So I think they have now changed, both the governments, but leadership have changed their approach towards CPEC. And let's
hope for the best. Yes. All right, you talk about focused approach, but there's another term that is being used a lot since we were hearing about CPEC, and since the first phase and now in the second phase, and that is the importance of an enabling environment for all the projects under the CPEC. What does an enabling environment in the context of CPEC mean exactly?
Like when we say an enabling environment, like China's scholarship, particularly those who actually focus on industrial cooperation or trade or business, so they have of late started focusing on 4 key factors. The first factor is the political stability. By political stability, they mean continuity and consistency of policies. Then is security. Security is a very important factor in any business that you carry out in any country. First 2 things are very important, and second 2 things are related to business. One is ease of doing business, because in Pakistan they find, not only Chinese find, but many foreigners find very difficult to do business in Pakistan. Ease of doing business is one.
Facilitative process, basically.
And fourth is cost of doing business, because of energy crisis or energy prices. We have not been able to provide a competitive price, production cost to the industry. So these 4 factors are very important if we want to create enabling environment. So I always stressed, I always recommended that you need to have a body which should actually ensure these four factors.
The SIFC, do you feel it is that body that could help that enabling environment, that facilitative process?
It could be one, but normally I say that one should not create new institutions. We should strengthen existing institutions. That is very important. Like if you look at the objectives of SIFC and BOI, you will find that objective of both these institutions are same. And one institution is very old, and they have some kind of expertise in their institution. So SIFC is also a good step given our circumstances. But we need to actually be very, very practical and pragmatic in dealing with issues. What are the issues? We say enabling environment. If a person has money and he wants to come to Pakistan, should he come to Pakistan or go to some other destination? Why should he come to Pakistan? Because if we don't provide,
what are the incentives?
Yes, incentives. Incentive is protection of his life first, security, his profit, the security of his asset, and he should feel very comfortable that wherever he goes, he has under one roof, he finds solutions to his all problems. Like in contemporary world, you see there are many countries like Vietnam or Malaysia or many European countries. They find anybody who has money would find those countries very conducive, with conducive environment to invest their money and and expect good return, plus security, plus safety. So I think there's a wholesome solution to these problems. It's not only that you just focus on security and you don't focus on ease of doing business. Everything has to be done simultaneously, and unless you do that simultaneously, you won't be able to create enabling environment for any country.
I understand what you're trying to say. Now, when it comes to CPEC, there are some avenues that both the countries have highlighted, including the special economic zones, industries, the information technology sector, mines and minerals, agriculture, clean energy. What are China's expectations from Pakistan regarding these avenues?
Right, like the 4 areas that there are a host of areas, but 4 areas are very important, and primarily if you look at SIFC's working, they are focusing on mine and mineral, IT, tourism. So if you focus on these areas, you'd find the mines and minerals is the most difficult, because we have a lot of problems with regard to exploration, excavation, and making use of these sources. But there's a lot of potential in our country where we have gems and all sort of stones and minerals and
pink salt.
Yeah. So I think though it would take time, but we need to create an environment for industry, and we have to incentivize these areas, these industries, whereby people not only from abroad but from within Pakistan, they also come and because these are very lengthy procedures for this. Now tourism, I'm a staunch supporter of Pakistan's tourism. We have
huge potential.
Just imagine that last year we had a Gandhara symposium where we invited monks from various Buddhist countries, and if we could just manage 500,000 Buddhists in Pakistan, so it turns out to be economy of $10 billion. So huge potential, just one segment, one religious tourism, one area, Buddhist. Similarly, you have Sikh tourism here, you have Hindu tourism here. So, but for the tourism also to be on board, you need to have security, because for the tourist,
they need to feel secure whenever they come to Pakistan, that they are in a secure environment wherever they go.
He has to feel comfortable if he has to enjoy it. So I think if we focus on security and we create that kind of environment, tourism has a lot of potential, and Chinese have shown a lot of interest in Pakistani tourism. In coastal areas, alongside blue economy that we look at, I think there is a coastal tourism also, which is very important, and Chinese, they are taking interest in that. So I think in times to come, though I have learned that there are many steps taken with regards to security of Chinese, and
that is what our Prime Minister has assured during his visit to China.
But alongside, I also say that Chinese, one good thing about China is that they understand our vulnerabilities. We also tell them that look, it's not very easy to create that security environment that they are probably looking at, because it's low intensity conflict. There are many enemies around our country. They will continue to disrupt, destabilize, and we'll have to continue to be alert and to deal with this situation.
I totally agree with you on that. Our Prime Minister, when he participated in the China-Pakistan Business Forum in Shenzhen, also highlighted transfer of Chinese technology, steel, textiles and renewable energy as potential avenues. What's your take on that? I
think that's a good idea, and particularly transfer of technology, because if you do transfer of technology, it probably will have positive effect on cost of production, cost of products. So that's a very good idea. I think with regards to renewable energy, since we have very costly energy in our country, and that costly energy is an impediment to your industrial growth, because everything that you produce needs energy. So solar was one of the product which is recently introduced in Pakistan in huge number, and it has started affecting the electricity produced through IPP and other producers. But I think we'll need to have a plan for this. It can't be just haphazard introduction of renewable energy, and then you have existing energy where you are required to pay a certain cost to the IPPs, and there's a circular debt around that, and you need to create, you have to have a short-term, medium-term, and long-term mechanism to
and an implementable mechanism that that will be over and done within certain frame time frame.
Yes, actually, what all these projects like 13 priority areas, I think there should be a body. SAFC is okay, BOI is okay, but I think this should be a very powerful body which should coordinate and implement these plans.
All right.
Otherwise, because when we meet Chinese, now somewhat we have,
and you meet very regularly with them.
Yes, we what they mentioned. They mentioned that we have 3 tiers of government. One is federal government, then is provincial government, then is the local government. Like in Gwadar, Chinese had a lot of problems with dealing with various issues. So I think to deal with all, instead of 3 tiers, there should be one roof under which all these 3 tiers are working and facilitating the investors and people coming in.
All right, so the key word is facilitation or ease of doing business. Also, our Prime Minister met with the chairman SIDCA, and during the meeting he talked about bilateral partnership in infrastructure development, climate change response, human resource development under the ambit of the BRI and the GDI. What mechanisms is China expecting to be put into place to build on those?
Like if you look at Global Development Initiative that you mentioned, or Belt and Road Initiative, or for that matter CPEC, around 40% of the concept revolves around infrastructure, because unless you have infrastructure, no connectivity, no business, no trade. So they are focusing on infrastructure, and I think China's expectation of Pakistan is that they should complete all these projects. Not only complete these projects, these infrastructure like roads, rail networks are secured, so that you can have logistics operated on those routes where you expect connectivity to take place. So it is, I think, Chinese expectation is that we should have some kind of mechanism whereby we can implement all these plans with timelines, unless there's a lot of wastage of time, because if you look at Chinese development model, it's very fast-paced model, whereas our development model is very slow-paced. The one big problem between Pakistan and China is that they have a fast-paced model and we have very slow.
And that is what I want to understand also. A lot of talk has been made on the Chinese development model. Our Prime Minister talked about it in an article that he published in the Global Times as well. And there's a lot of talk in other, addresses that he's made as well. What is the Chinese development model?
Like, I just give you one example. I went to China and I asked them, you build a bridge, maybe 2-kilometer long bridge in 20 days. How is that possible? You build a 20-story building in 20 days.
That we've seen videos of.
Yes, yes. So that is this fast-paced model. So I asked them, why is this model not implementable in Pakistan? So now then there are issues. There's a bureaucracy, there's a pipeline, there are problems, there are litigations, there are so many problems. So Chinese have made implementation of very speedy and efficient.
All right.
That is why they, you see, whenever if you take a break of 6 months and you go to China, you'll find a altogether different China, different city, different town. So I think we need to learn from Chinese fast-paced model, and that is only possible when your government functionaries, your institutions are very strong, and they take decisions, timely decisions, and they facilitate the people who are joining for this development.
How important is SIDCA's role as far as the CPEC development is concerned with all the projects that we have just talked about?
SIDCA actually it also relates to infrastructure development, but I always say you dream in Beijing, you sit in Shanghai and dream, but those dreams will come true through Islamabad. It's not possible that you just go there and see the tallest tower in Shanghai and come back and say. So everything has to be implemented from here. Everything, all the plans will have to kickstart from here, and we need to put house in order to do that. There are many bodies working in China, and there are many who are facilitating Pakistan also in carrying out various projects. But ultimately, we have to do it.
All right. When you were talking of gwadar, during the meeting with SIDCA, there were certain projects in gwadar that were talked about: the Pakistan-China Friendship Hospital, the desalination plant in Gwadar, the new Gwadar International Airport also, that is all under the ambit of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. There's also a joint working group on socio-economic development under the CPEC also that has yielded positive results as far as this meeting is concerned. Because CPEC and all the working groups that are working under it, there's not just one or two, but there is a plethora of such working groups. Do you feel there is a necessity to also streamline the working of those groups and continuous monitoring of those groups to see whether things are moving in the right direction and at the right pace?
Yeah. You talked of Gwadar, and there are various working groups working on various segments, various components of CPEC. You gave example of Gwadar. There were certain things which were required to be done by Chinese. There were certain things which were required to be done by provincial government and federal government. So Chinese have done their work. Chinese have completed their work, and they met the deadlines that were set for those projects. We need to see creatively. We have to see, for example, Gwadar Airport. It's the largest airport of Asia.
All right.
Yeah. It is the largest airport of Asia, and it's soon becoming operational. Do we have some business logic of that airport in Gwadar? Have we created some ecosystem around it? That there is a coastal tourism, there is industry, there is a some kind of activity that people go to Gwadar and take part in? No. So who will operate? Which aircrafts will operate for Pakistan? Which airlines will operate for Gwadar, and why will they do that? So we have to, Gwadar
create an environment also around the airport.
Yes, you need to create a business sense.
All right.
And no, that's not for Chinese. It's for us to do that. They have built an airport. They have built facilities. So we need to create a business sense for Gwadar so that people go there.
That's a very interesting point, and on that note, I'll end my conversation with you. Thank you so very much, Dr. Talat Shabbir, to have come to our studios after a very, very long time and to have discussed many aspects around the CPEC, and of course your point of view needs to be also understood and explained and deciphered in the right vein and by the right people. So thank you very much to have done that. Let's come to our second story, and that concerns Narendra Modi and his new cabinet. Now, when we talk about Narendra Modi cabinet, there's a 71 member cabinet including 11 National Democratic Alliance ally ministers. His previous cabinet had 81 ministers. Now, there's a significant concern that is highlighted in the new council, is that the number of ministers have declared criminal cases. Out of the 71 ministers analyzed, 28 ministers, that is 39%, have criminal cases against them, and that includes 19 ministers with the serious criminal charges such as attempted murder, kidnapping and crimes against women, and also hate crimes. This is not the first time. Even in his previous cabinet, there was a certain number of ministers who had criminal cases, and that time there was 42% of ministers who had criminal cases. And there's another commonality between the two cabinets, that is this one and the previous one, is that a huge number are millionaires or extremely rich and influential people. So there's a certain trend that we are seeing as far as this whole Narendra Modi cabinet is concerned. To talk more about that, this trend and how it helps Narendra Modi or how it helps or does not the Indian government and the Indian people, we've been joined by Naveed Aman. He's a senior analyst. Naveed Aman Saab, thank you very much to have joined us. Naveed Aman Saab, as I was saying in the introduction, Narendra Modi has been elected for a third term. He was saying that he will get 400 seats. He did not. So he had to rely on a coalition government. There is a 71-member cabinet, including 11 National Democratic Alliance ally ministers, compared to the previous that had 81. But there is a huge concern as far as the criminal records of the ministers are concerned. And there are 28 ministers who have criminal cases against them. There are charges such as attempted murder, kidnapping, and crimes against women, notably Shantanu Thakur, who is the Minister of State for Port Shipping and Waterways, and Sukanta Majumdar, who is the Minister of State for Education and Development of the Northeastern region, have cases related to attempted murder under Section 307 of the Indian Penal Code. What is Modi's strategy, in your point of view, to rule this time with the criminal cabinet?
Khalid, in fact, this is not a surprise for me. The winning of Modi and then the inclusion of the criminals in the cabinet, it's not a surprise for me, because Modi himself has a very, very long criminal record for himself. So he is a leader of Indian BJP, but you know, he is a criminal leader. It is also an admitted fact that he has a criminal record, right from Gujarat to his 2 terms in federal government, and then it is the 3rd term, though he has won, but you know, he has lost that level of popularity which he has been enjoying in 2014 and then 2019. Now his graph has come down, but now he again has included those criminals in the cabinet, as he has always been having that support of the criminals in the cabinet. So he is a criminal, and his cabinet members are criminals. Most of them are. So I don't expect any very good response or very good thing from him towards India and towards the neighboring countries as well.
Let now Naveed Sahib know, I'll also like to refer to 5 ministers who are in this cabinet that have cases related to crimes against women. Minister of State for Home, Minister of State for Petroleum and Natural Gas and Tourism and Tribal Affairs. And you know, when you talk of India and the number of rape cases that are also very common, but at the same time India projects the shining India to the world, and a democratic India, pluralistic India. When you see 5 ministers who have cases related to crimes against women, what does that bode nationally or internationally for Narendra Modi?
Omar, Modi and his cabinet or his regime or his philosophy or myth of politics have 2 ways or 2 faces. One is about that picture which is very gloomy and you know a very shining India, and the other is his criminal face, and that you know he carries on that shining picture of India within that coverage of the criminal shadow. I mean, it shows that he has double standards in his life or his politics or his all the myth of Hindutva, which is now trashed out by that secularism, and I think that the human rights organizations in the entire world should take notice of all this behavior, that the criminals should not be included in any cabinet, and at least the cabinet should be very clean and have that record which is very acceptable for
There needs to be a transparency, especially when it comes to a cabinet that is that belongs to a country that declares itself to be the world's largest democracy.
So it has not been a democracy anymore under his rule. Now it has become something else, because his behavior has have never been a democratic behavior. So he dealt India as a fascist leader and has created India as a fascist state for the entire neighboring countries. You can quote the incident of 2019 when he swallowed that Kashmir against 370 and 35, and this time in 2024 he claimed and he argued that he will capture that Thivo island of Sri Lanka, which is a part of Sri Lanka, and the issue of the Thivo island have been resolved amicably in the time of Indira Gandhi. So it's not a part of India any longer. It is Sri Lankan island, and how can you then capture that island?
There are certain hegemonic designs that Narendra Modi has shown in the last government, and in this government also we might be seeing signs.
It shows his pensionist, attitude or philosophy of future politics.
This Akhand Bharat that he's been talking about. Also, let's come back to the ministers. 8 ministers have cases related to hate speech. Nothing new there, because we've seen the whole election campaign that the BJP has had, including Narendra Modi, where a lot of hate has been spewed. There are so many reports that have come that have pinpointed towards India and the BJP as having, a certain narrative, and that is the hate speech against the minority, especially Muslims, but also Sikhs, also Christians. What's your take on that? You have 8 ministers, can you believe that, who have crimes or cases related to hate speech?
Omar Khalid, in fact, his mythology of politics and the mythology of Imran Khan is almost the same. Both depends upon that hatred, narrative, and the polarization in both of the countries created by either Imran Khan or Modi. I mean, it is the same. So the hatred which he enhanced in Indian society is that of hatred which is enhanced in Pakistani society or injected in Pakistani society. So
this is kind of a mirror reaction, is what you're trying to say.
Very much.
All right, let's talk about another thing, and that is the wealth. This new cabinet that has been formed is predominantly composed of wealthy individuals, and astonishing 70 out of 71 ministers are in Indian terms, because this is an Indian report that I am referring to, croropatis. The average assets are 107.94 crore rupees, with 6 ministers declaring assets exceeding 100 crore. When there's a concentration of wealth amongst the ministers, does it underscore a financial disparity within the political landscape in India, a country that claims itself to be the largest democracy but also has a huge amount of poverty and those who live below the poverty line?
It is true, absolutely right. And his cabinet or his members reflect that they are not from that part of society which is very poor and resulted on suffering in India. None of them represents really the Indian cabinet or Indian Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, both. It shows that the wealthiest people of India have captured that politics of India as well, and they cannot represent that class of India which is really starving for bread and butter. So it cannot be reflected as a democratic country or
because
democracy.
To a normal Indian citizen, it does not bode well, because when he sees the majority are extremely rich, how can those extremely rich understand the plight of those who are living below the poverty line?
Never.
All right. Thank you very much, Naveed, Aman, Khan, to have talked about this. Stay with us. Stay with us. Our next segment concerns the Israel-Palestine conflict. We have entered the day 251. Naveed Aman Khan Sahab continues to join us in the studios, but we've also been joined by Osama Muhammad Nazzal. He's a Palestinian journalist who joins us from Jenin. I'll begin my conversation with Osama. Osama, thank you very much to have joined us. Hamas says it has shown full positivity in efforts to reach a ceasefire agreement with Israel, but US Secretary of State says that there are some changes to the deal proposed that are not workable. The G7 leaders are also meeting in Italy for a 3-day summit to discuss global affairs, but President Biden is also going to push the G7 countries to back the Gaza ceasefire negotiations and press Palestine to accept the UN-backed ceasefire plan. What is going to happen with this ceasefire plan? Is it ultimately going to be accepted by all sides, including Israel?
First of all, we need to remember that the International Court of Justice asked Israel to stop its war on the Gaza Strip and to stop its genocidal campaign, and Israel turned a blind eye to that. Also, the resolution by the Security Council, as the American president put forward his proposal for a ceasefire we did not see any statement from the Israeli government, and all the statements were issued by the American Secretary of State Blinken. And I think here is the trap, and here is the conundrum, that the Americans are trying to exonerate Israel of its crimes and to present it to the world as agreeing to the ceasefire, while the Palestinian side is the side that rejects that, which is not true. All the Palestinian people, all the Palestinian factions, the Palestinians, individual by individual, are calling for a ceasefire and calling for putting an end to the Israeli genocide. I think that Israel is going to continue its war on Gaza and every part of Palestine. And as I'm speaking right now, the Israeli forces are attacking Jenin region and killing Palestinian youth in Jenin right now, which means that Israel is declaring a fully fledged war against the Palestinians, and it won't stop it without really pressure and without good intentions by the Americans, the Western world, and by a good position from the Arab governments. Really, the Arab governments also don't do what should be done in order to stop this genocide against the Palestinians.
All right. Osama, is Israel getting isolated diplomatically? I say that because in the whole context of a statement by Recep Tayyip Erdogan, who's Turkey's president, who on the one hand applauds Spain's prime minister for his stance on the ongoing Gaza crisis, and of course we know that Spain has accepted the state of Palestine amongst so many others now, which also shows that there is a tilt amongst the world countries towards Palestine. Erdogan also takes aim at exactly what you were telling me, what he calls Israel's spoiled attitude, saying the Netanyahu government responds to calls for a ceasefire by shedding blood, and adds that no country with a conscience can accept this. What's your take on that? Is Israel actually being isolated or not?
First of all, now the real and the true face of the occupying power of Israel is revealed to the whole world. You know that before the massacres against the Palestinians, it was marketed to the world that it is the only democracy in the Middle East. Now the whole world is aware of the true face of Israel. Never a democracy, it is a colonial power, and it is blacklisted by the United Nations as a killer of children. And that is the reality of the occupation state. But the American Secretary of State, Blinken, is trying to change this image and to market the false image of Israel to the world once again by telling the world that Israel agreed to Biden's proposal and to the Security Council resolution, while the Palestinians rejected, which once and again is not any true. Israel is isolated now. The public opinion in the United States of America and in Europe and everywhere know that Israel is a genocidal state and the Palestinians are victimized, and all that they are fighting for is justice, freedom, and independence. I think the statement by Mr. Erdogan is important, but the Palestinians need more from their Muslim brothers and the whole world to force Israel to stop its genocide, because the situation is unbearable and life is no longer possible, either in the Gaza Strip or in the West Bank.
All right. I'll come kindly stay with us, Osama. We've also been continue to have our dear friend Naveed Aman Khan Saab in the studio. Naveed Saab, the United Nations, Jordan and Egypt held a humanitarian aid summit recently on Gaza. How important was this summit in the wake of the humanitarian crisis that the Palestinians are going through, with the denial of proper aid coming in, with proper food, proper water, proper medical facilities, the hospitals being bombarded and in no shape to treat the patients as per se. Do you feel this humanitarian aid summit was important in that context?
Definitely, it was very important. The Palestinians are suffering and they are in need of everything. Number one, their requirement is ceasefire. No more attacks on Israel, on Palestine. This is first and foremost important demand and need. The second is they need all sort of commodities of life which any normal human being needs. And third is their treatment. Almost everybody is now wounded in Palestine, and they need massive treatment, or paramedical staff or the doctors needs to be sent there for their treatment. On this, three things. The entire international community needs to come out and support Palestinian nation and raise their and add their voice in the voice of the Palestinians. I think from within Israel, pressure has mounted on Netanyahu or his cabinet or his decision against Palestine, attack on Palestine. I have seen that pressure which is on the streets of Europe and European countries. Yes, it is massive. And many of the countries during the last couple of months have acknowledged the independent position or clear position of Palestine in the region, which is a success of Palestine or Palestinian cause. I think the solution is very near, but before that solution or ceasefire or that attack, the halt of that attack from Israel to Palestine will come when Israel will be very comfortable in watching and seeing and calculating that in Gaza, in Rafah, in Jenin or any other part of Palestine, everything is ruined. So it will be,
This is the ultimate aim of Israel.
This is what Israel wants.
Okay. Osama, coming back to you, a United Nations backed inquiry concludes that war crimes have been committed by Israel during the now 8-month conflict. This independent commission of inquiry report that was released yesterday covers the period from the attack on southern Israel on 7th of October and of course till the period of the 31st of December 2023. It is quite graphic. It includes details of sexual violence, torture, mutilations carried out on unarmed citizens. Let's add this to the ICC decision, to the ICJ decisions. How effective have those been?
Look, what we hear in the media and the reports from the different international organizations and commissions is very simple to the reality on the ground. The reality on the ground can't be imagined by any human being. You are talking about whole cities that were leveled to the ground. You are talking about whole families that were decimated. You are talking about more than 10,000 people, most of them are children and women, who are under the rubble of the houses that were bombed out by the Israeli war jets. We are talking about the suffering of the Palestinian prisoners who are kept zip-tied, and because of that, they get amputated. Many prisoners got their legs and their hands amputated because of the Israeli shackles and because of the Israeli ties and handcuffs. So we are talking about inhuman situation. The word war is not enough to describe the horrendous situation that the people have in Gaza. And so all that the international judicial system needs is to take action, because the evidence is available, the evidence is clear, and all that is needed is real intention. But sorry to say that the international bodies like the ICC, the ICJ, and other bodies are attacked by the American administration when they get to the point of being serious with Israel.
Thank you very much, Osama Muhammad Nazzal, to have joined us online from Jenin. And all we can send you is prayers, Osama, for you, for your loved ones, and for all the Palestinians who are suffering every passing hour. Thank you very much to have joined us and to have shared with us the calamities that the Palestinians are going through. And thank you very much.
Omar,
yes.
One thing which I quickly want to add, Eid is coming, Eid al-Adha. The last Eid al-Fitr came, but by then even the Palestinians have nothing to eat or nothing to celebrate. again Eid is coming for the entire Muslim world. We need to remember all those Palestinians and all those
and
people.
I'm sure
in Kashmir, we need
that
to remember
this
all of
resolve
them.
will be there within all the Pakistanis on the day of the sacrifice and on Eid ul-Azha and on all occasions. This is what we do also. Our Foreign Office has said that. Our Deputy Prime Minister has also been saying that time and again, our Prime Minister as well. Thank you very much, Naveed, Aman Khan Sahab, to have joined us. Let's come to our last two stories very quickly. The first concerns a staggering number of 120 million people who are forcibly displaced by war, violence and persecution. This is the latest report that has come from the United Nations. It brands the ever-increasing number a terrible indictment on the state of the world as it is. The UNHCR says forced displacements of globally had once again smashed records, with conflicts in places like Gaza, Sudan, Myanmar, forcing even more people to flee their homes. The global displaced population, it says, as per the report, is now equivalent to that of Japan. It's a very important number, and we need to really think very hard on where the world is going. Then, two death anniversaries, ladies and gentlemen. The first is of legendary singer known as Shahanshah Ghazal, Mehdi Hasan Khan. His 12th death anniversary is being observed today. Born on the 18th of July 1927 in India, 1957, opportunity given to sing on Radio Pakistan, and he never looked back. Sang for over 300 films in his career and honored with numerous awards like Nishan-e-Imtiaz, Tamgha-e-Imtiaz, Pride of Performance and Hilal-e-Imtiaz by the government of Pakistan. He passed away on this very day in 2012. The second death anniversary is that of leading film actress Sabihakhanum. Her fourth death anniversary is being observed today. She ruled the Pakistani cinema scene in the 1950s, in the 1960s with super hit films like Kaneez, Mukhra, Anokha, Tehzeeb, and so many others. She was awarded the Pride of Performance in the year 1986, and she passed on this very day in 2020. May both their souls rest in eternal peace. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to an end of today's newsroom. We'll see you inshallah tomorrow with new stories and segments that pertain to you, us and Pakistan. Stay safe. Allah Hafiz.